Hey beautiful, welcome to Dr. Sarah's Café. This is your weekly refill where we take our time to savor the flavor of the week, which is a unique specialty blend of astrology, tarot, oracle cards, creativity, poetry, and intuition. I'm really excited to geek out with you all about this flavor of the week. You know, I am such a nerd in these weekly refills. Today, or this week rather, the flavor is epic windfall. Epic windfall. Now, each of those words separately means something different in different contexts, right? And so, a windfall we know is like an unexpected blessing. Most often we think about a financial windfall, but it doesn't have to just be money. It's just a really unexpected big blessing in your life. And epic could be an adjective that says how magnificent or the magnitude of something. So not just a big journey, but an epic journey, right? Meaning it's like colossal, it's massive. But epic can also be a noun, and an epic, if you are a literature nerd like me, is an old story, usually a story that tells the tales of, really important people in history, kings, queens, magicians and superheroes, right? So really like big grandiose stories are like the entire history of the world, the nation, or something like that. I know I'm setting like a really high expectation for this week, and I don't know what ultimately is going to happen. I don't know what this week is actually going to feel like for each of you, but I'm going to walk you through each of the ingredients that help me paint this picture of epic windfall, okay? So let's dive in. We're going to start with the Oracle card. I mentioned this before, but a lot of times it's the Oracle card or maybe the Tarot card for me that really sets the flavor in motion. And so I'm using the Secrets of the Ancestors Oracle deck by Abiola Abrams. And we got number 19, the Griot, and Blessed. And this corresponds to the Sun card in Tarot. So if you know about Tarot, the Sun is blessings. It is happiness, it is joy, it is abundance, it is vitality and life force, it is clarity and joy, right? Like childlike joy. And so it's really appropriate that in this oracle deck, the griot is depicted as a child, right? And so the legacy, the history of griots is that they pass down their roles and their skills from generation to generation. So the grandfathers, the great-grandfathers, the great-great-grandfathers passing down this information, this wisdom, this knowledge through generations, through the ages, right? And so the griot has a long history and a long legacy that is cherished and really important to maintaining and preserving the history of an entire people or an entire society. And the tagline here being blessed, I think a lot about griots, how they tell history, right? They write the story. And a few weeks ago, we had that flavor was writing a new narrative. So griots they take care of, they are the hosts, the caretakers of history. They are the caretakers of our collective stories and our collective legacies. And the idea of being blessed, or is that blissed? I'm seeing it now for the first time large on my screen. It's actually blissed and not blessed. Same difference. Blissed, blessed. That a lot of the happiness, a lot of the joy, a lot of the blessing comes through our knowledge, our awareness, the stories, the narratives that we hold, that we carry forth, and that we inherit, right? Like that is a blessing. We don't just inherit money or property. We also inherit stories. We inherit history. We inherit legacies, right? So I love this griot energy being a part of this week, and I'll attach it to the astrology. I was reviewing the astrology notes as I sat down to record for today, and I was like, oh, that's where it is. That's where the epic windfall comes in at. So stick around to the end because I do the astrology last this week. The tarot card is one that often strikes fear or worry in people, especially if they're familiar with the tarot in general. But we have the Tower card, number 16, which breaks down to a 7. The Tower card, I've talked about it before in other videos. It's about destruction. It's about things falling apart. It's about things collapsing. It's about things disintegrating or being taken apart. I've often used the example of Legos. So you have a structure of Legos and you realize, I want to build something else. I built a tower, now I want to build a bridge. So in order to get to the bridge, I have to destroy the tower. And so that's really the meaning of this card. And in this context, with the epic windfall, the griot, the caretakers of history and story, right? A lot of what's going to disintegrate and fall apart and be destroyed is old narratives, is perceptions of history, is a way of looking at the culture, frameworks, right? It's a lot about the mindset and the mentality. So you might not see a lot of changes with this palette of energy in your physical world. You may or may not, but really because of the overall flavor, it's likely to be a disintegrating of a story, a narrative, a paradigm, likely to be a paradigm shift, an epic paradigm shift that creates space and creates a new system or a new place, a new container for blessed narratives, right? For an understanding and awareness and knowledge that is empowered and that shows you or gives you what you need to move forward and attract and call in your blessings. Okay. So in this context, the tower is never anything to fear. It could be very uncomfortable. It could be very painful, but my belief, if you're, asking me about it, the tower is always trying to get us closer to our destiny, right? And that's the purpose of this channel, fill our cups and fulfill our destinies. And a lot of times the tower happens because we've been dragging our feet. We've been not getting into alignment with our destiny. We've been sort of resisting the greater evolution of our soul and our spirit or our life and our destiny. And so the universe kind of has to step in sometimes and take something from us, remove something from us, like cause a collapse in our life so that, what we were too afraid to do or we were too stubborn to do or too rigid to do, it's kind of like, okay, you have a greater purpose that you came here for. And so your spiritual team is going to support you through that. And sometimes supporting you through that means, guiding you to uncomfortable situations to help you break the cognitive dissonance. The tower is very much about breaking cognitive dissonance around something, right? You'll know what it is for you personally. So the pastry and poetry, I'm doing it a little differently this time. I don't have a pastry. I'm just realizing in the moment that I forgot a pastry. And last week, by the way, if you're watching, I didn't discuss the pastry. It was brownies with Gwendolyn Brooks. And the reason why I chose brownies for Gwendolyn Brooks is because the brownie was invented in Chicago, apparently. Okay. And Gwendolyn Brooks is from Chicago. She's a Chicago poet. She was the, state poet laureate in Illinois. And so I thought that the brownie being founded in her hometown, her home city of Chicago, a city that she writes a lot about in her works, would have been appropriate. For this week, I guess I was just so enraptured in the epic tale that I'm going to share with you all today that I forgot about the pastry. So it's a viewer's choice in terms of what pastry you want to enjoy with this poetry. And the poem is an epic poem. It is specifically the epic of Sundiata Keita. And this is an epic poem from West African tradition society, specifically the Kingdom of Mali, which is now present day Ghana, Nigeria, different parts of that coast of West Africa. And this is a story that I remember diving deeper into when I was teaching high school and in high school, ninth grade English in Louisiana, you teach about epic and mythology and folklore, right? And so I was teaching to predominantly Black students, and I was like, you know what? We're going to talk about like some African epics. We're going to talk about some epics related to, you know, the ancestry and the history that often gets erased, often gets ignored, often gets left out of high school curriculums. In the Epic of Sundiata, there's a film about it, there's a storybook about it, and there's also like an actual like book where it was transcribed and preserved in writing. But of course we know that the griot tradition is an oral tradition. It's pre-literacy, it's pre-writing, it's written language, the griot tradition. And so a lot of that history was preserved and knowledge was preserved through oral traditions. And, just to, again, continue nerding out about this stuff, the reason why poetry was so widely used for oral traditions is because it made it easier to remember. So when things have a rhythm, when things have a pace, when things have a song, right? When they have a beat, when they rhyme, it's easier to remember them. And so if you think about all the knowledge and all the history that had to be remembered and contained just within someone's mind, then using those mnemonic devices, those memory devices like rhyme and pattern and repetition and refrain to help aid in that memory process. And so poetry was very much a huge part of like human history and human culture and society. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm just expressing my feelings. It had like a role, like a social role. And it's interesting now that poetry is seen as frivolous and like, what's the word? Excess. No, there's a word. Oh my gosh, I have to think of the word. Frivolous and superfluous. Whew. It's been a while since I used that word. Poetry was a primary way to remember information and document history. So I was reading a little bit about the history of griots, and I might cut all this out. I'll see if I leave it in the video. But they were very respected, but at the same time, it was like a caste system where you couldn't marry outside of your griot class. They were also like very clearly below or beneath, quote unquote, the royals, the kings and the queens and the royal courts and things like that. So it's, not an idealistic or it's not a utopian history by any means. Okay. But it's still a very beautiful history, and it's still a very important, significant, meaningful part of, global history. So the Epic of Sundiata, also known as the Lion King of Mali. So we all know, where Disney steals their stories from. But one characteristic of an epic is that it is really long. Epically long. That's why to be epic means to be grand, like the biggest, because epic poems go on and on and on and on. Okay. So clearly I'm not going to read the whole poem for you, but I am going to read part of the introduction as it was transcribed. And I also edit it, so it didn't come in this form. So if you read the actual transcription, it's not going to look or sound like this. I took creative license. Let's put it that way. I took creative license for the purposes of this week's refill to share with you all as part of the pastry and poetry segment. I am a griot. It is I, Jele Mamadou Kouyaté, master in the art of eloquence. Since time immemorial, the Kouyatés have been. We are vessels of speech. We are the repositories which harbor secrets many centuries old. We are the memory of mankind. By the spoken word, we bring to life the deeds and exploits of kings for younger generations. It is we who keep the keys to the 12 doors of Mali. Every name has a meaning, a secret import. I teach kings the history of their ancestors so that the lives of the ancients might serve them as an example. For the world is old, but the future springs from the past. My word is pure and free of all untruth. It is the word of my father. It is the word of my father's father. I will give you my father's words just as I have received them. Royal griots do not know what lying is. We are the depositories of oaths which the ancestors swore. Listen to my word, you who want to know. By my mouth you will learn the history of Mali. Listen to the story of the son of the buffalo, the son of the lion. I am going to tell you of Magan Sundiata, of Mari Jata, of Sogolon Jata, of Nord Magan Jata, the man of many names against whom sorcery could avail nothing. I like it. Okay. So I've highlighted in bold, or I've placed in bold letters, just a couple of lines, well, more than a couple, a few lines, which really resonate with me. First of all, it is I. Okay. You can even take these as affirmations, right? Like, what does that invoke in you? It is I. Also, we are vessels of speech. It's going to come back around when we get to the astrology. Trust me. We are the repositories which harbor secrets many centuries old. We are the memory of mankind. By the spoken word we bring to life. Every name has a meaning, a secret import. My word is pure and free of all untruth. Listen to my word, you who want to know. Ooh, that feels powerful. So let's connect it to the astrology. This is what hit me right here, is the Mercury conjunctions. Mercury is making 3 conjunctions in the sign of Pisces. We've said in other videos recently that Mercury is not its best in Pisces. It's not its most natural state of energy, being in this oceanic water, but it is mutable, so that helps. Pisces is a mutable sign, and Mercury does good in mutable energies. And so the idea of Mercury in Pisces is that it doesn't get to be super rational, super logical, super mathematic, super, detail oriented, super hyper focused on content and, commas and periods and em dashes. But what Mercury can do in Pisces is tell an epic tale. Okay, that's what it can do. It can tell an epic tale. You hear me, right? You think about poetry, writing the songs. Epic poetry, like the Epic of Sundiata and other epics that have been written in human history, very Mercury in Pisces, okay? And not just Mercury in Pisces, but Mercury making significant conjunctions to major outer planets and celestial points in the sky that speak to destiny, that speak to the greater evolution of us, of people, of the cosmos. I know I'm talking in epic terms, but it's par for the course given the flavor of the week. Okay, so I'm going to lean into it. On February 25th, we have Mercury conjuncting Saturn in Pisces. Okay, so again, Mercury in Pisces, the dream, transcribing the dream, writing the poem, writing the song, writing the epic love letter. Conjuncting Saturn, this is time. Okay, this is time. This is history. This is the generational evolution. This is, okay, what are we building for the future? Remember in the Epic of Sundiata, he says, I tell the stories of kings and queens for future generations. You hear me? Mercury is telling an epic tale in Pisces, conjunct Saturn for future generations. This is a story. This is an epic tale that will last through the generations. Then we have the new moon in Pisces. I'll link to the new moon in Pisces video below. Talked about the lighthouse in the fog on February 27th. And then March 1st, Mercury makes another conjunction this week to the North Node in Pisces. At the same time, Venus is turning retrograde. I'll come back to Venus, but let's stick with this Mercury Pisces epic tale, epic poetry energy, right? So the North Node, one of my favorite astrological points or, components. It's really a foundation of the channel, right? The birth of this channel, fill your cup and fulfill your destiny. And so Mercury conjuncting the North Node, again, we are communicating and talking and speaking towards future, towards evolution, towards a destiny point. And it's something that's really, really engaging, almost pulling us forward. It's like this story that we're writing. We're writing it into the future. We are writing the future. Yes, we are speaking the future. We are telling the stories of our future in advance. We are co-creating with the cosmos what is to come and where we're headed. Okay. I'm feeling it. Okay. March 2nd, Mercury makes its third conjunction of the week. Okay. Mercury ain't playing this week. Okay. It's like, listen, before I leave Pisces this year, we're going to boom, 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 tell an epic tale. Okay. Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces. Neptune, modern ruler of Pisces. Neptune and Pisces both like fantasy, both like the dream, both like spirituality, both like to dissolve, both like to expand and project an image and, perform. And it's very much the planet and the sign of like smoke and mirrors, right? And like the mystery of drama and the stage, so many things, beautiful things, a lot of art and spirituality with Neptune and Pisces. So coming into conjunction with Mercury, writing an epic poem, performing an epic poem, right? And Neptune, Pisces being, again, facilitating the poetic, the dreamy speech, words, love letters, poetry, songs, acoustic melodies, right? So Mercury's already doing that, already inclined to be that way in Pisces, but making these really strong, solid conjunctions in Pisces really solidifies like the capacity for Mercury to be more epic this week. So the other two transits that I haven't mentioned, on March 2nd, Sun in Pisces squared Jupiter in Gemini. I think this is lending more of that Mercury energy as well, right? So Mercury and Jupiter are in a mutual reception. So Jupiter rules Pisces and Mercury rules Gemini. So the Sun making this square to Jupiter and Gemini is bringing in that expansive, epic. Jupiter is epic, right? So it's bringing in that epic, expansive Jupiter energy into this conversation. And not just Jupiter energy, but Jupiter energy that's in the sign of conversation, that's in the sign of writing, that's in the sign of let's talk, let's use words, let's use language, right? Let's, look at the details and facts of history. And with Jupiter being there, it's like, yeah, look at all these, historical facts and like these human facts and these details about the universe and the earth. And let's weave them into a very creative song. Let's weave them into an epic poem. Let's weave them into an epic tale that will last for generations to come. So I'm liking it, Let me know in the comments if you get through this week and you're like, not even close. The thing about these energies, though, is that they don't always like take place in a practical way outside in the 3D world, right? Sometimes it is like just how you feel, like you just feel more inspired to listen to performance poetry all of a sudden, right? So even though I'm saying that these things are very, very epic in general, they could play out on the micro level. Like they could be epic at a micro scale. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I'm so curious. All right, backing up a little bit for this Venus retrograde in Aries. If I have time, I really want to get a Venus retrograde video out, but just in case I can't get a full video out, I do want to spend a little extra time talking about Venus retrograde in Aries. So Venus, the planet of love, relationships, femininity, women identified issues, topics, themes, and people. Also like art and things that make us feel great. The kinds of things you turn to when you want to feel pampered or beautiful. ruled by Venus. And so it could feel more challenging to access that energy when a planet is retrograde. And specifically because Venus is already a little stressed in the sign of Aries. Venus is, it's not her favorite position. She's in exile or debilitated, whichever one. But she's opposite her actual home of Libra, right? And so she's like, ugh, I'm like way out of my comfort zone here, and I'm going retrograde. So taking extra time to practice self-care, right? You might have to put more effort into your self-care. You might have to put more effort into nurturing that feminine side of you and nurturing just the things in your life that you consider beautiful, and making more effort to look for the beauty in your life, right? It might not be as like readily available, like obvious, blatant, in your face kind of beauty and luxury, because Venus is like, I'm kind of under the weather. So I need you to help me out here to access this energy. But also Venus retrograde, really important, will have us rethinking. So retrograde, rethinking, reviewing our relationships, reviewing our relationship to each other, reviewing our relationship to ourselves, reviewing our relationship to beauty, to luxury, to comfort, to status, and all the Venus related things. And so it's a great time to do an audit of those things in your life pertaining to love, beauty, comfort. I'm trying to think of and just other receptive things that could be a sense of luxury, whatever that means for you. Self-care types of things, but the pampering side of self-care. So the massages and the spa days, right? Seeing, recalibrating and reevaluating what you really need and what's really important for you, and where adjustments need to be made with all those various themes and aspects in your life. Okay. And again, if you know where Aries is in your birth chart, that can also tell you, is this going to apply to career or work? If it's your 10th house or 6th house, maybe, is it going to apply to your physical health? If it's your 6th house, if it's your first house, that would definitely be your body, right? So you might be reconsidering your ideas of personal beauty and personal style. 7th house, definitely reviewing relationships, right? I think we're all reviewing relationships with a Venus transit, but if it's also happening in your 7th house of relationships, then that's going to be a big one for you as well. And so, yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get a full Venus retrograde video out, but just in case, I wanted to make sure I gave you some of the important details of what that kind of transit will ask of us, or might ask of us. Okay. All right. Y'all, the takeaway, we're keeping it short and sweet. We're keeping it quick and cute. I receive unexpected blessings. That is the epic windfall energy. And so a mantra, an affirmation that you can use to align with that vibration, is to say throughout your day, throughout the week, I receive unexpected blessings. And if you care to share what unexpected blessing you received this week, please let me know in the comments. Other than that, please like the video if you enjoyed it or got any value from it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And I hope to see you in another video. Take care. Much love.